Hello, everyone. My name is Don Petranzik, and I'm the Vice President of Experience and Education for Informa Markets Fashion. Today, you are joining the first ever Rainbow Table Talks. Today, I have gathered friends and colleagues around Informa that are members of the LGBTQIA+ community. And we're gathered here to have a very friendly, fun, informal conversation about Pride. June is Pride Month. And here we are, June 14th, we're smack in the middle of it. So if anyone is scratching their head saying, oh, I didn't know it was Pride Month, don't worry, you've got a half a month to still celebrate. And for those of you who are like, girl, it's been 2 weeks of celebrating, pace yourself, you have 2 more weeks to celebrate. But it's gonna be great. For the moment, let's do a quick introduction of those around the table. So Gilbert, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everyone. Happy Pride Month. My name is Gilbert Estefan. My pronouns are he, him. And I am the show director for Fan Expo HQ based in Toronto, Canada, for the division of Informa Connect. And glad to be here. Looking forward to a great conversation and you know, some humor along the way. So thank you.
Thank you. We always need a little humor. Speaking of humor, Stephen, that's a big intro. I have to like segue it, but next up, Stephen, please introduce yourself.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for coming and joining us today. My name is Stephen Pomerantz, and I am the Senior Marketing Manager for World of Concrete here at Informa Markets. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm excited to get this conversation going and welcome everybody.
Thank you, Stephen. Let's now next move to Ilario.
Hi, everyone. Happy Pride Month. Thank you so much for joining. My name is Ilario Campisi. My pronouns are he, him. I work with Don, hi Don, and with EJ. My role is I'm a marketing optimization specialist, and I work directly in the Informa Markets Fashion division.
Fantastico. That's Italian, isn't it? Fantastico.
Fantastico, yeah.
There we are. Next up, EJ.
Hi, this is Evian Jose, or EJ Delgado. I go by he, him. I am a senior product manager within the digital product management team, currently focusing on events and semi-on registration across all of the different families at Informa. So very excited to be here with you guys.
Thank you. Currently also showing us all the colors of the rainbow behind you on your sleeve. It's amazing. You wear your pride literally on your sleeve. We love that. And then last, of course, and not least, we have Lacey. Lacey, please.
Hi, everyone. Lacey Gautier, pronouns she, her. It is such an honor to be here with all of you wonderful men today, and also with all of you tuning in. Happy Pride Month. I am the Vice President of Events for the Natural Products family within Informa Markets. So work on the trade shows and conferences within the Natural Products division. And just, again, so happy to be here with you all. Honored to be a part of it.
Thank you so much, Lacey. The one person that unfortunately is unable to join us today, Jennifer Tattenbaum, last minute had an engagement that popped up that disallowed her to participate, but she sends her best and wishes that she could participate. So the next time we gather around the table, Jennifer, we would love to have you. But for the meantime, the few things that I wanted all of us to discuss around the table are a variety of things. First of all, I wanted to ask all of the members the very basic question that we might get from our family, from our colleagues, from our neighbors, depending on who we talk to and about what we talk to them, is what does pride mean to you? When we're talking about gay pride, what does pride mean? And just to give you an idea of how we might start the conversation, I'm going to say that for me, pride means, and Pride Month means, an opportunity to embrace my identity as an openly gay man in all aspects of my life, And it's an opportunity to celebrate with a community of friends within the LGBTQIA plus group, in addition to members of my family and friends that are not in the community. It also means a reflection. And I think depending on situation, what I'm watching, the mood I'm in, how much sleep I've had, it either goes back into deep reflection about the journey that could get heavy, or it goes into great elation about the journey and how far we've come. So how about that for a kaleidoscope about what does pride mean to me? That leaves the door wide open for all of us to jump in and say what pride means to us individually. Of course, there's no wrong answer. So like, let me just preface before we start with the rest of the group. Originally, I thought, wouldn't it be interesting to talk about pride when we're talking about members of the community, and when we're looking at people of a certain age who have experienced things, and then in contrast to people that are younger and what they may not have experienced, and wonder, what is pride the same? What does pride mean, to that group versus this group? So speaking of a man who will be 55 next month, that is where my pride comes from, and what it's rooted and what it stems from. So in contradiction to it, maybe from oldest to youngest, Ilaria, what say you about pride? Especially, we're probably in for an interesting contradiction in so many ways, not only age, but also, as you mentioned to me earlier, not being born in the US. So there's this European outside of the US element that's also in play that I'm really interested to know about.
Yes, for sure. So thank you so much for that introduction. But yeah, I am from Italy. I was born and raised there. And personally speaking about pride, and personally speaking, obviously, and based on like my excursus of my life, I would say that like pride for me means being completely honest with myself. That's the first thing that comes in my, my head. And also it's being like willingly being like able to look myself in the mirror and say, I love you, I believe in you. You're worthy of what you are and who you are, and you deserve everything that the life has, and for you, you are worthy of every good. But especially, like, I believe that we all have something, I'm generalizing here, but we all have something magnificent to offer to the world as a community. And of course, we have to own it. We have to live it, and we have to love it.
Yeah.
And obviously, like, pride also means that it's also an act of defiance to those who think that we are not worthy to be seen. So, and there's definitely there's a relevant dichotomy between Italy and the US in terms of being seen. And I'm proud to be seen here more than I've been seen in my in my homeland in Italy. But I have to also bring that there so other people can reflect how I'm feeling with themselves. So what
a great statement, though, that last one part in particular, when you say, hey, I bring it so that it can reflect. I'll speak for myself, and maybe in addition to what you're saying, when we own it, when we are within it, then we indirectly allow others to be in it with us and to receive it with us. Lacey, what are your feelings on pride? Give us an overview.
Yeah, well, those I so appreciate both of your sentiments. Beautifully stated. So thank you. for that. And for me, Pride it's all the amazing things. It's celebrating love and acceptance and progress and all of the really positive aspects of being being a lesbian in today's society. There's a lot to be grateful for and thankful for. And I can't think of Pride without thinking of Stonewall and the environment that existed that led up to that, and the group that was the marginalized of marginalized, who really prompted that and prompted this incredible movement that has resulted in the incredible progress we've seen over these decades. And there's still so much work to be done for the entire community, and for trans people in particular, and for trans people of color in particular. And so I think more than anything else, it is this awesome opportunity to continue to drive awareness around the work that is still to be done. So for me, it is that blend of positive reflection and celebration and appreciation, and then also the need for even more advocacy and collaboration and conversations like these.
Yeah, and community. So I love that you brought that up, Stephen. Letting us know your feelings on Pride in general, but also maybe you can also address why Pride? Why you gotta have a Pride?
I think that Pride has always been a really important part of visibility for the LGBTQA plus community. The reason why I've always gone to Pride my entire life, for the most part, and I've been out since I was 17, is to have a sense of community and belonging that I don't get at other times of the year. And it's really a cool thing to be able to go to something like a big Pride event. I've been to Pride events that are tiny and gigantic, and you have representation of all different facets of the community. You see parents and PFLAG, parents and friends of lesbians and gays that are a great organization. You see religious organizations, sports organizations. It really makes you feel like you're part of something bigger than what you may think you are. So that was one of the first things, like I was thinking back when we decided to do this, about the first Pride I went to when I'm back in Philadelphia when I first came out. Mm-hmm. And I think that was the most important thing to me, was seeing all these different parts of the community that I didn't even know existed, because back in the day there was no internet, there was no social media. So it was really hard to connect when you're a 16 or 15 or 17-year-old gay boy and you have no idea what's out there for you. So I found a lot of my community in Pride events.
Yeah, it is that opportunity to see yourself reflected in others. So when you see it, you can believe it, you can be it. It's such a trite saying, but it's so true, because sometimes, especially back then, there were no visible role models or representations for us. I'll speak for myself, for me to look at. I mean, there were, to just like break it down, in the conservative Polish Catholic working class family that I grew up in, it was discussed as you're either a drag queen or a pedophile. Like, that was what gay meant. I was like, well, I'm not either. I mean, I'm not a drag queen yet, but maybe that's one of the options that could be on the table. The point was that, like, that's how I was fed this information. And at that time, in the late 70s and early 80s, there was nothing. It was Billy Crystal on a show called Soap, who was a transvestite. Even, like, that was even a term that is been to the wayside. So seeing ourselves in the community, and I think that answers the question. That's one of the answers to the question of why Pride. But Gilbert, why else Pride, do you think?
Well, so much has been said here around the table, around the virtual table, I should say, and all very sort of valid and, points that I also relate to. But, I think pride means to me in various different aspects of my life, as Stephen alluded to, when you're younger, you are looking for a place of belonging, an area where you can celebrate your diversity and be surrounded by your extended family, right? We all had to create these sort of extended families or perhaps new families because the families that you were born into perhaps didn't accept it. So, and that continues to be the case around the world today, as of, more so, today with various sort of marginalized folks coming in from around the world that are immigrating to Western culture. So that first and foremost, I think a sense of belonging is very true to what pride is. But more so, for me right now in my life, at this stage in my life, I would say that, at the beginning of when I first came out, when I first sort of identified as a gay man, I was protecting my identity, whereas now I feel like I'm embracing it because of all the work and the struggles and the challenges and obstacles that I've overcome over the course of my career and my personal life. So it's really about embracing myself and being able to nurture my identity and help others come into their own identity. So pride has this sort of ongoing sort of growth opportunity for all of us to sort of gain, understand, and nurture and support those people that are coming into their own. So I see it as an opportunity for us to continue to develop our community and support the new generations that are coming in that perhaps identify as trans or non-binary. There's so much coming into play nowadays. It's no longer just lesbian, gay, bi, or trans, right? It's non-binary. It's people who don't identify as a male or female. So learning, understanding, and celebrating the diversity that exists within intersectional community groups. And it's such a great celebration to be able to take strength and humor for life's most difficult challenges and how to overcome them.
I'm writing myself a note so that I can ask this question after I get EJ's thoughts on pride. What does pride mean to you? And then if you feel like there's something more you want to add to so why you got to have a pride?
Yeah, of course. I think the right answer to that is why not? I mean, honestly, let's be real. I think the thing for me, as I grew up in a very religious, conservative type background back in Puerto Rico. And I think a lot of what everybody has said here resonates a lot. I didn't have a lot of public figures that were out and open and that were positively out there, showing a positive face that you can look up to. And so it was very, I knew from a very young age that I was absolutely gay, that I was absolutely interested in men and not necessarily girls in the loving, amorous way, but I definitely looked up to the ladies and all the outfits they wore. It just was natural. I will say that with time, I think my view of pride changed. Initially, I thought, what are all these crazy people out there doing? Don't they know that that's getting them attention? It's going to get them in trouble. It was like, why are they being excessive? Like, they don't need to be that. And I think with time, when I moved to America specifically, and I started learning about what Stonewall was, they don't teach us this back at school. We don't learn the whole history.
Well, they don't teach us that here.
Oh, okay. So I didn't know any of this, and having to get myself more exposed to it, it made me feel more and more empowered that I should be one of those crazy people out there walking on Pride. I should be one of those people that during the whole month is dressing as I want to, which I do now a little bit more than just out of June, and inspire others and be that positive energy. I didn't have them, then I have to become it because the next generation needs it. Because one of the things that I'll say when it comes to Pride is I'm lucky enough that I live in a bubble where I live in a big city where it's easy for me to do this. But it's the people that I remember now, me growing up in my little town, there was no way I could get away with half the things that I put on, my social media, or that I wear, or the way I speak, or if my hands drop in a certain way. It's crazy back at home. If you wore green on Thursdays, you were gay. And
What?
it was like, no
Wait,
one wears
really?
green on Thursdays. It's just
No,
like,
wait.
it's a common known thing.
Is that for real or are you making that up?
No, I'm talking back in Puerto Rico in school. Like, if you wore green on Thursdays, oh, he's the gay one. Like, absolutely known. And it was so weird because I grew up in dance crews. I grew up in I also did church and dancing. I was like in choir, and all these things didn't out me, but wearing green on Thursdays would be like, that's the one. He's gay.
Amazing.
So it's now wearing a wig might make you gay or a drag. So it's one of those things that I think has evolved with time. I think it's incredibly important to have. I also think eventually maybe we don't need it. When we get to that point, we'll know. But right now is not that point. And even when we get to that point, why not? Why not celebrate it? It's absolutely fabulous. We're a gift to the world.
That is
I think
crazy.
everyone is. So
I'm gonna be
I'm
wearing
lucky we
green.
get. I'm lucky I live in a. I'm
I'll
lucky we
be
live in a
wearing green.
generation where we can celebrate it.
Every Wednesday, I'm gonna be wearing green. You said something that made me wonder, because I felt similarly when you said, all these people being excessive. Like, I remember seeing that when I first came out, and I recoiled. I thought, again, conservative background, so all of this was like a lot. But now, after living our lives, analysis of everyone, do you feel like at least a portion of those folks are not necessarily doing it for attention, because there is a percentage that are just performative, but it's a reflection of just their freedom within their own lives, and they're just so in it that nothing else that surrounds them really kind of impacts their decision making?
If I can add to that,
I'd love to.
I'd say absolutely. That's the cool thing about Pride. It's empowered me to actually embrace everything about me that I normally keep inside and kept bottled in. It's the creative side, like the ability to express myself to others. And I remember, I say this all the time, when I leave my house, I have to decide, am I gonna wear the colorful today, or am I gonna mood it down? And on Pride, I feel much more empowered to wear those things, because I know that there's kids on the trains. I know that there's young people that are just waiting for someone to be the one that does it, that says, oh, I can do that too.
Yeah.
And just very quickly, and I don't mean to plug this, but one of the things I love to do is like costume designs on the side. And that's something that's started to come out more when I moved to New York, and I started to get more exposed to these creative sides that before I was like, drag queen, what is that? That's too much. Now I'm like full on into it. And that's all because of Pride. Honestly, I would never have seen that. I would never have been exposed to it had it not been because I got myself more exposed to that through Pride. And that's what it means to me a lot, quite a lot, actually.
So you also said something there that was interesting, where you said, I'm going to make a decision each day. Is anybody making a decision each day in that way, whether it's in your personal life or your professional life? I'll answer it for myself. I'm not making any of those decisions. This is not right if you do, and it's not wrong if you do. I'm just wondering, because it's part of the process, it's also part of the road that you're on. Lacey, do you make any decisions each day that are connected directly to your being a lesbian?
I would say it certainly used to be daily. It is not daily anymore, but it is still, I would say I still frequently make an active decision around what level of detail I'm going to go into with someone I'm meeting. And there's oftentimes assumptions made, and people oftentimes see a wedding ring and assume I have a husband, and I almost always correct them, but that is an active decision still, and one that's oftentimes rooted in time, mood, energy, all of that. So Yeah, I would say there is some element of that still, but again, nothing like it used to be, where it felt like where it was more of an effort.
Yeah. Does anybody with a raise of hand feel like there's a thought, decision-making, an active decision-making process going on? I mean, clearly I don't. I forget sometimes that there are other people involved in the world because I'm just getting up and doing my thing. And then when people are, there, I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. You were sharing this globe at the same time, but maybe, yeah, Stephen.
I would say there's definitely, like, I agree with Lacey. There's very little decision making these days. When I first came out, when I was younger, and when being gay wasn't as widely accepted in corporate America and in the world as it is today, I definitely thought a lot more about making decisions like that. I would say the only time that it comes back to slap me in the face now is when, I'm out at work. All my coworkers know it's been that way forever, as far back as every job I've had, pretty much. But when I go to a work function and I'm dealing with customers, exhibitors, and we're at a formal dinner, I find myself dialing it back a little bit sometimes in certain conversations, because there's a two-pronged thing to this. It's kind of like, do I want to give personal aspects of my life to a customer that exhibits at the show? It's a little awkward for me. I don't always necessarily feel like I need to do that. Mm-hmm. And then the other part is, like Lacey said, people assume I'm married as well. I have a ring on my finger, and I always wonder, like, a lot of people are aware of it, but some people maybe are not and may say something. And then it's almost like you find yourself being thrown back into the closet in a weird way, that you are like, do I say I'm married to a man, or do I just say I'm married? Do I avoid the subject? So that's the only decision making I find I make is when I get put into unfamiliar situations with people that are not part of my orbit.
Got it. Gilbert, you were doing this.
Well, I agree. I mean, I think there's different, I often sort of reflect back and think that, I look at myself as sort of a two-pronged person. I have a shadow that follows me around. And so I sort of question, okay, am I sort of portraying my full self in every situation that I'm in? Or am I sort of, hiding behind the shadow of how I want to be perceived? I don't do that anymore. Like before I used to, when I was coming into myself, because there's a thing about coming out. Coming out is very much a Western philosophy, but I would, and the reason why I say that, I mean, I was born and raised in Canada, but I come from, my parents are Lebanese, right? So Lebanese culture, Arab culture is very, very conservative and very strict, and it's, God forbid you're gay or lesbian or non-binary, there's so much stigma around that still today. So I would agree, there's that level of sort of balance that I have to sort of make sure that how I want to portray myself in certain situations. I'm a little bit more reserved, but if someone does ask me, like, hey, or, I don't see a ring on your finger, do you have a family? They immediately assume that I have a family or I have a wife or, whatnot. I correct them and said, no, I'm gay, I'm very proud of it. I'll stand up for it, I will not sort of shy away and, try to pretend I'm something that I'm not, because it's not worth it. Like I'm tired of the hiding behind the truth. So I'm out and I'm proud. And if people do have some challenges around it, well, that's their inventory that they have to, work with.
No one ever assumes I'm married to a woman. Although one did assume I was a woman once in a bar, which is fine. It was a dark bar and I had a semi beat on, but that's fine. I mean,
I'll just add in, I think it's those types of environments and situations where maybe there are assumptions made that prompt a conversation, that prompt some level of, accidental activism that can make that end up being the most impactful, where people don't feel in any way shameful or or guilty about what they said or the assumption they made, but it results in just this conversation.
Oh, I love accidental activism. I just wrote that down. I think it has a ring to it. And I want to.
I should say I stole that term from my wife. So I give her complete credit, but I think it happens in all of our lives on regular basis. So, yeah.
So Ilario, are you making any decisions daily?
Not really, but I was thinking about the assumptions made by other people for sure. And it's a funny thing. Obviously, we're here to laugh and to talk about things. And for example, like my grandma's friends, like they always are like, oh, and where's the girlfriend? Do you have a girlfriend or anything like that? I'm like, no girlfriend. Maybe a boyfriend, but there's no one at the moment.
You tell them that?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I am really out. So like in that way. But yeah, it's obviously, it's not like you get up in the morning and you're like that. Like it's something that you have to grow up within you. Like you have to find the courage, and you have to like, it's something that it's not like you get up in the morning and it happens, but it's based on experience, on your life experience.
Yeah.
And but yeah, it happens, especially even in Italy. Like that always happens in Italy, like in my hometown. Yeah, it does happen. Not people from like my friends or like friends of my friends that are like my same generation, but like older people, like my family's friends, or people. Yeah, so they usually many assumptions, but I'm really out, so I'm like, no. No girlfriend, no wife, no one.
Nothing. But so
nothing.
On building on that accidental activism or purposeful activism, Gilbert said something when he was talking about what pride meant and talking about educating the future generations, etc. And I heard it as members of the LGBTQIA+ community. But then I wrote down, is it our responsibility in a positive way to educate those outside of the community? And how much of that do you feel you do on a regular basis, or you're interested in doing on a regular basis? So meaning, like I said, neighbors, family members in some cases, cousins, etc., colleagues, coworkers, who don't understand LGBTQIA+, they just don't get it. So I just am interested to hear from the folks around this virtual table, do you actively participate, and if so, how so, when so? If not, why not in those circumstances?
I mean, I was going to say we are all on this call, so we're definitely participating. But I will say that to extend to that, I find myself, funny enough, having to explain it more to people within the community. And I feel like I'm blessed that I find myself surrounded with people from all ages, so I get to learn so much from those that know so much more than me. But I'm also surrounded with people that are younger than me that are constantly like, sometimes taking things for granted and don't quite understand the privilege that they've gotten, and something that took me time to understand as well. And to be thankful for that, to be grateful to understand the backstory behind it for our community will help them to become better. And then for those around me that aren't a part of the community, that I have quite a few friends of that, it's always interesting, because it's like there's some level of craziness to the things that the LGBT community does. I'm not gonna say craziness. I mean, how do I say? It's just not the norm that a person heteronormative would experience. But they're always kind of curious, and it always comes down to, how do you explain it? Where's the context? What's the background? Which opens them up more to it. So I think I'm not going to say I do it on a daily basis, but I find myself posting quite a lot on my social media around things that I see that are impacting the community, good and negative. I know there's a lot of negative things that happen, and we have to make that evident so people are aware that the community is still suffering through this, but then also the great things that are coming out so that people can celebrate it as well. So it's weird. I've never considered myself an activist. By that, I just thought I was doing the right thing.
Yeah, well, you are, in my opinion. Stephen, I see you nodding your head. I feel like you have when we have talked in the past, I feel like I get from you that your connection to the community, I mean, aside from being an actively gay man who wants to have a good time, there's this, I don't want to say political, but there's a serious side of it that you're interested in making sure that messages are received or communication is out there. Did I misinterpret that, or what are your feelings on that?
No, I think that, you know, I think throughout my entire life since I've come out, I've always looked at the serious side and the political side of being gay, as well as the fun side, I guess. You know, it seems like I was thinking back to all the different prides and over the last couple decades, and it seems like there's always an issue that we're fighting for. I don't ever feel like that goes away. And I try to, you know, bring up these topics with friends and relatives and coworkers on occasion. I don't like to get too heavy with conversations with in the workplace, but it's important for people to know. I mean, you know, whether it was when I first came out in the 80s and early 90s, and it was all about HIV/AIDS and fighting that, marriage equality, the don't ask, don't tell with the military. Like, it's always been something. I don't ever feel like we've gotten to the point where, you know, you could take a breath and feel like everybody understands and all is good within the community. I think there's a thing, and I feel totally right now that there's a lot of stuff going on that, you know, with anti-trans youth laws being passed across the country and stuff like that, that I just feel like a lot of people in their everyday lives may not be exposed to or know about what's going on. So I will tend to bring up certain things to people I know so that they're made aware of it, because I think that they don't have access to that information. And I think especially today, everybody is so segmented in how they get their news and where they get it from. That people like for instance, the folks that were going to riot at the Idaho Pride earlier this week, dressed in military garb. Like, I'm sure there are people on this call that have no idea what I'm talking about. but you know, to me, that's an important thing right now, because it could have been a disaster if those folks were allowed to get into that Pride celebration. So luckily,
was that the U-Haul story?
It was it was like 30 guys dressed in military outfits with their faces covered in the back of a U-Haul, and they were going to be dumped off at Idaho Pride in this small town. And God knows what they were going to do or what they were planning on doing, that they were going to cause a riot of some sort. Yeah. And luckily somebody called to alert the cops to check it out, and they did, and arrested them all. So stuff like that, like, I just feel like it's good to have those conversations and let people know about things that are going on in the world, because they may not get a way to find out about otherwise.
Yeah, I think something that you said makes me think about something specifically about the community, but also just that we might consider employing across our lives in general, which is just because something doesn't affect you, whoever the you is, directly or personally, doesn't mean you shouldn't care about it or have some empathy about it or see what you might be able to do about it. So if someone says, well, I don't know anybody that's trans, so I don't really care about an anti. Okay, fine, but there are others that need this help and this support. So to know about it is to potentially and maybe hopefully do something about it. So maybe we can find a way to act to re-energize our individual empathies. You know, those of us, not only those of us on the call or listening to this, but just in general, you know, in 2022, I think the world at large could benefit from a booster shot of empathy. Maybe we can get a little bit of that from Pfizer and Moderna. And then we'll see what happens. I don't know. I honestly don't even know where that came from, but it just made me think when you were saying that. It's like, yes, everyone doesn't know someone that's trans, but that's fine. You could still do something. I'm gonna stop there because I could just go in a million different ways. So the one thing I wanted to make sure that I asked everybody around the table is, this is stolen from RuPaul's Drag Race, and what he asks, like the last four remaining queens standing, which is
Who would you eliminate?
who would you eliminate? Oh my God, who would you eliminate? That'd be amazing.
Love that question.
Yes. As I click all of you off, I eliminated all of you. I'm the only one left. I'm leading the call. No, not that. Which is, what would you tell your 8-year-old self or your 10-year-old self, the pre-coming out year-old self, now that we're all successfully and mercifully on this side of things? What kind of advice or message or support would you share? And we know ourselves the most, so it'll be potentially poignant. And the reason I'm asking this question is because maybe there are colleagues out here that are questioning themselves. Maybe there are colleagues that have family members that are in the questioning process, or friends that are on the journey themselves. And it really just takes exposure to or information from the community to be able to digest it and turn around and maybe impart it to the person that needs it, or digest it oneself if you're the person that needs it. So I'm just going to randomly spin the wheel and ask Gilbert, what would you tell your pre-coming out self?
I think it would be very simple, is that you are not alone, because I used to think when I was younger, I was the only one, or I was made to believe that I was the only one that was feeling the way I am. I have been. So you are not alone is definitely a key sort of indicator or a statement that I would say.
Yeah.
And then I would say, in addition to that, things are very different when I came out in 1988 versus now, right?
Yeah.
So there's so many resources out there right now in society and the communities that we live in that offer so much support. And I would say, if I wish I had that, because I didn't have it, and I had to sort of go on in life trying to make sense of who I was without any support. I had to leave at home at a very early age, at the age of 16, to find myself and to live on my own. So I came from a very, I mentioned to you that I was, I come from a Lebanese background, so that was not accepted. It was like, get out. So it was very challenging at the time, and I had to survive and struggle to identify who I was and what was important to me. So it was a big struggle. Right now, I mean, I do a lot of work, with communities, and I speak at the kids' youth line. So there's youth lines, there's resources out there, books out there. There's even children's books. I participate as part of a community center here in Toronto called the 519 Community Center, which is a LGBT two-spirited QIA plus community group. And there's, drag queen reading stories, out for kids, for the community. So there are books out there. So I guess, all in all, I'm not alone, and there is so many other resources and a community out there that's there to support you in every step of the way, within your sort of gender expression or gender identity.
I love that. And I love that book burning hasn't seemed to find its way up to Canada. That's nice for you. We cannot say the same down here. EJ, what would you tell your young self?
Oh God.
Younger.
Yeah, ask your mother for lessons on sewing. You'll need that in the future. No, I think particularly for me, I think I would say, don't stop looking for love in all the wrong places. You have it at home. I think it was in my growing up, it was a little difficult for my parents and my family to accept it. Grew up a little conservative, even though I knew who I was. I think it was just for them, I was changing the rules maybe too quickly, too fastly to what they're used to seeing and what I was up to that point. And all of a sudden I wanted a full other spectrum to the other side. So I think, having a little bit of patience with that, understanding that the love is still there, understanding that all the concerns come from a place of love. You're only concerned and worried for things that you love and care for, and understanding where that comes from and the source of that would have helped a little bit, soften up the blow and the process. And then the last thing I'd say is once you do and come out, you just go and be your authentic self, because you're part of that change that's coming, that other generations like today have it almost everywhere. There are positive examples of LGBT community everywhere where I didn't have it before. They're seeing it now. I don't know if you guys saw it, but I think Discovery Plus is doing a new show where they're drag kids that have been and you see it in their face how much they're expressing, and their parents are like, I didn't know I had to deal with this. This is no book written out there how to support my drag kid. But it's great to see that there's shows like this that are really showing, those great parents that are out there that are really embracing it, and to showing other kids that if that's how you feel, that's perfectly fine. Each of us are creative. Each of us has a strength in a different way. God knows I wish I was an athlete, but I prefer coloring books and designing. So, and to those who are athletes and just love sports, bless them, and they're in our community as well. So just know that you're a part of the change. Continue to do it wholeheartedly. And
I love that. And I thank you for sharing that part about knowing where something comes from, because you seem to have been able to do that well. I'm going to see a therapist, talk about why I can't seem to do that well. We won't talk about that here, but I think that's such a major important part. And then when you can do it in one place, then you can apply it to other places, and therefore, wherever you have those little hiccups in your life, you can say, oh, I did it here with my parents when they didn't accept me. Anyway, we're not going to go into my issue. We're going to go to Lacey and ask her to talk to herself before coming out. What's your advice?
Well, first on, I will say I love your tangents. It's my favorite thing about this conversation. So thank you for those. My younger self, I would just say accept yourself and embrace it. It took me so long. It took me a really long time to come out, and even longer to accept myself. And so I think just being true to oneself and recognizing that the outside world is it's a much softer place to land than what you're holding on inside. And then for those who, so many of you have acknowledged the incredible resources that exist today. And I think there are still versions of don't wear green on Thursday unless you're gay in some communities, in these smaller conservative communities. So I would also just add in, for those who might have loved ones or kids, particularly in those types of communities, those smaller, perhaps towns that it's not obvious who may be a part of that community or not, find those outlets, even if it requires a drive, or even if, like, in I just heard recently in Denver, there's a drag show brunch every Sunday, and every third Sunday, like something like that is kid friendly. So activities like that, again, so many others have referenced. Just seek them out, even if they take you or other families out of your comfort zones, because I think that's half the battle. There is just getting out of that comfort zone and embracing it, even if that's on behalf of someone else.
I love that. Ilario, if there is a younger version than yourself, I mean, I look at
The subtle read.
it's a compliment. So young. But before you were this age,
Yeah, out.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say everything is gonna be all right. That's the main thing. Everything is gonna be all right. And that it won't be easy for sure, but it will be worth it along the way. And as Lacey said, the hard part is mostly like accepting yourself first, and then so coming out on your own terms, like on yourself, and then coming out with other people, so the people around you. And I think the hard part was that, but I think for sure, like I was raised in Italy. There were many resources, so I came out here when I came to the U.S., where there were many, many resources, and also had like a group of friends that were very supportive. Obviously, in my head, I was like, my family or the people around me, but it ended up to be um, it ended up to be great, to be honest. So, younger self, everything will be all right. Don't worry.
Yeah.
You'll be great.
Amazing. Positive,
Yeah.
positive message. Stephen, what say you?
I would say it's a little bit cliche, but things do get better. I think that also I would say to myself, you're not going to believe the representation and the media, how it will change and how gay people will not be necessarily stereotyped in certain types of roles and certain types of films, that there's going to be a wide variety of stuff coming out that's going to blow your mind. And also that one day you can get married, it'll be legal, and you'll be treated with equality that that at a younger age I never thought was possible.
Yeah, that's those are messages I'm going to tell that I would tell myself too, but I would tell myself a lot of things. Hopefully not anything too emotional, but what I think would be important to know is, I would say, go with your gut instinct, because it's true. It even though it seems like it's wrong, everyone else outside is saying that's wrong, but you feel it internally, like this just feels right. Later on, you'll come to know it as your women's instinct. But go with that, because it's going to be your guiding post, and lean into all of those opportunities or those ideas or those questions. Jump all the time, because, and I feel I've jumped most of the time, if not all of the time, and that is important. And I would never not want to do the jumping, because as scary as it is to wonder about the jump, and as scary as it is mid-jump, when you've decided to jump, you've concluded that it's the right thing to do, even though it's scary. So you're afraid before, you're afraid during, but because it's the right thing to do, you land softly. You sometimes land on your feet, sometimes you land on a beanbag chair, dated reference. Sometimes, you land and do a somersault and you come up fabulous. Regardless, you land and you go on. So those are the things that that I would tell myself. And
Hey, Don.
Yes.
There's a question in the chat that I think we should address real quick. Can you say
Yes.
it? Okay.
Number one, do you have any advice for raising a child that is LGBTQ in the current climate? Thank you for asking, anonymous attendee. And first of all, Lacey, I think you said you have children.
I do.
Regardless of their status, you're a currently actively engaged mother, so at least you have that opinion that you might be able to that you can share to answer.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's no different than any other way that we provide love and support and acceptance to our children. You know, it certainly presents unique challenges, particularly if they are surrounded by communities where perhaps it is not as accepted or prevalent. And I would just say love and embrace and talk, acknowledge the feelings, acknowledge that those feelings are real, and then perhaps there are resources or individuals or groups that that are directly within your community that you could lean on, again, just for that exposure, just for that realization of your child is not alone.
Yeah, I love that.
There are a lot of people.
Yeah, and mentioned earlier in the conversation was an organization called PFLAG, PFLAG, which is Parents and Friends of Lesbians and Gays. And that is a national organization with, not offices, but with chapters in cities and around the US. So just look up pflag.org and see what's closest to you. And the amazing thing about that is you will come in contact with parents and friends of lesbians and gays. And this was done in the 70s, so they haven't added the rest of the letters of the community. But the point is that there'll be so many people there on various parts of the journey. So regardless of wherever you might jump into this group, where you are in your journey, there's ultimately someone who's there, someone who's been there that you can get reflections from, and then someone who's coming up that you can use secretly as a look how far along I've come. And it's a journey, and that just puts it into perspective. So the other thing that I'll say about that is just from my own coming out experience, and I don't know, again, my trust issues, back to my therapist, we'll put that on the bullet points, but it was told like, oh, we didn't want to ask you if you were gay. We wanted you to say you were gay first before we asked you if you were gay. And it's like, how am I going to say I'm gay if I don't know you're ready to hear I'm gay? So it's like, the point is, I'd like to suggest considering creating a conversation where the topic is introduced in a safe way that allows the child to know that there is an opportunity to address it or discuss it without saying, I think you're gay, let's talk about it. That's a little, that might be a lot for some. For other children, they'll be like, all right, let's talk about it, I'm here for it. So that would be my suggestion out there.
Yeah, I would definitely echo that, and in this safe, non-accusatory manner that is not dissimilar to saying, so who are you dating? Do you have a boyfriend?
Yeah.
Whatever the sometimes there's so many versions of those challenging conversations, but yeah, bringing some nonchalance to it, I guess, instead of making it this big topic that
feels imposing. Yeah. It's like you said right at the beginning of your response, Lacey, which is communicate. The more that you can create a conversation that seems that is open and is willing to have an exchange, I think the better off everyone involved will be in experience. We are at 1 minute to the end of this, and we didn't even get to the one question that I said we would answer, which was rainbow washing. We didn't get to rainbow washing, and
that could be another topic, another time, part of our Rainbow Talk series.
Well, this is my teaser. This is my teaser. Tune in next time for rainbow washing. What? You're washing with rainbow colored water? Anyway, Ilario, Stephen, Gilbert, Lacey, EJ, thank you for joining this conversation. So good. I hope everyone watching enjoyed it as much as I did and what I feel like we all did. So happy Pride and go out and celebrate. Thanks,
Pride.
everybody.
Thanks,
Happy
Don.
Pride, everyone.
Bye, Don. Bye, everyone. Bye. Thank you.